So normally at Casual Connect, developers talk to developers, share developer experience, and the customer is the player of the games. Here at this panel, the customers are you guys. So they're gonna talk. How are they selling technology to you? So that's the first point. Second point, we're gonna talk pretty much about what these people do to make your life easier, and how do they do that? So you love them more and appreciate their work more. And I guess, I can introduce them all, but it makes sense probably for you guys to talk about yourself, starting from, for example, Lucas.
All right. Hello, everyone. Is listening on? My name is Lucas Meyer. I live right next door. I'm the only Amsterdam employee of Unity. I've been here for about 7 years, mostly in the development part of the company. So I've been doing programming, management, executive for a while. And every day I try to make the product a little bit better. And I think on most days we succeed.
But you still program. This is important.
Yes, I do.
Sinjin.
It sounds like this works. My name's Sinjin Bain. I'm CEO of MaxPlay. We are a new game platform company. We started several years ago. We've kind of been in stealth mode for a while, and we're going to start talking about our engine and platform and our approaches to development processes, architectures for platforms, and runtimes over the next month or two leading up to GDC, and excited to be here.
Now, before I let Andrei have a word. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
So my name is Sjoerd Jong from Epic Games. I've been working with Unreal for like 17 years now. What I've been doing now for Unreal is evangelism, so I travel around mostly in Northern Europe and I talk about Unreal. Conferences, schools, companies, anything basically. And yeah, pretty much it. I have a background in level design, tech art and design basically. So, yep.
And Andrei, please finalize with a surprise of that you're not a game engine.
I'm not a game engine. I'm a human. We do, however, develop our in-house game engine, which is the opposite thing of what these guys are promoting and defending here. I'm going to defend your own technology, and I'm going to try to make a point when it makes sense for you to use it, because it not always makes sense to do that. And I'm a lead designer and founder of Spooky House Studios. And my background is in engineering and computer graphics, so I know a thing or two about game engines.
Yeah. Exactly. So the idea was that there is someone really loyal to you guys to represent just on the stage to explain like, hey, like game engines are cool, but this is what we do sometimes. So okay, so game engine is a tool, and I have. It has taken through 6 years for me, like with Unity. I used to work for Unity to understand that game engine is a tool, and as any tool, it requires skilled hands and the proper use. And so that's why we won't dive in any engine versus engine battles. We won't dive into drama. We'll talk about technology trends and what these people are working on. But let's start from the basics. The question number one, what problems does a game engine solve? And I guess let's start, for example, from Lucas. What, like, not Unity, but a game engine.
I think the most important thing for game tech, like the tech that's sort of on display here, is just that game developers can worry about making a game, because like making a game that's fun is hard enough by itself. It's you can see there's the competition out there is just crazy. Everyone is trying to make games. It's hard enough to make a game that's fun and successful without having to worry about like Android device number 5014 because that one is crashing.
So empowering less skilled people to actually deliver a game.
No. It's not about skill. Like it's not like I think it's not about skill. It's about wanting to focus on your game versus focusing on on the stuff that you need, but it's not what's going to make your game different from the other guy's game. So it's not like, well, people that are really good programmers should use their own tech, and people that are not good programmers should use something else. It's very much, is the tech of your game really what's going to set it apart? Because if it is, then there's a good argument to make for rolling your own. But I would say for most games that is actually not the case, and you want to make a game that's fun and that's hard enough by itself. So people want to spend their precious time making the game fun instead of making it run on all these devices.
Easy to use editor, easy to use scripting. Is that the way?
Sure. I mean, easy to use is better than not easy to use. But there's so many different problems that you need to solve when you're making a game. And it's nice if the ones that are not going to be the unique selling point of your game, if someone else can worry about that, at least in the beginning.
Okay, Sjoerd. The Unreal is known for a technology focus. Do you have a different angle to this question?
No, I agree completely in the first place. I mean, I always say you should be able to focus on making the game fun, not on making the game work. That's our job as engine makers, and it's really going to help you. But beyond that, there's also a second thing, that if you use an existing engine like Unreal or Unity, if you want, you can just bring in people from the community, you can bring in people with experience, and that's a lot easier than having to train them in your own technology. When you hire them, when you need help, it's easy to just Google it. There's a lot of people who probably already hit it in the past. That really adds benefit, I think.
Okay. Sinjin, so the focus of MaxPlay is collaboration, right? I guess you have a different opinion then.
Well, I think that it's interesting, the basis of your question, and I think everybody here would probably agree, right? We're in the business of enabling developers to be as creative as they can be, right? That's, at the end of the day, what any good engine or platform should be able to do through whatever the techniques are that your platform is strong on. And I think that where I come at this from is we see, like you were talking about, it's getting more complicated, right? So it's not only just telemetry and ad revenue networks as you look at mobile platforms, but we're launching into VR and AR, and there are all kinds of interesting issues that we as developers, because that's my background as a developer, have trying to address not only the fast iteration of prototyping, which is kind of what our collaboration really looks at, but it goes all the way down the tech stack. So, if you're with Unreal and you're very focused on graphics and performance, it even extends beyond that in terms of how easy is it for someone who is an expert graphics programmer to actually get into the rendering loops and change what's going on in the rendering loops, or insert data from telemetry in between frames, or things like this. There's the level of complication and opportunity is pretty staggering these days. And what's really cool is that developers are getting more sophisticated, so that I think a good tool or a good platform that not only enables sort of the iteration, but then can grow with the developer as they get more expert and want to explore and can push in a platform and modify it and enhance it. Those are really important things to consider as we look at where our business is going. So that's kind of where we're coming at.
So game engine is basically a rendering technology, a scripting technology, a powerful and easy to use editor, and the runtime, multi-platform runtime. And collaboration tools.
The what? The runtime multi... What did you say?
Runtime that runs on different platforms.
Okay.
Right? Right. Andrei, do you have something
It's
to
got
say
an accent,
here?
you can't...
Yeah, I had an answer.
It's got an accent.
But you didn't know that I had an answer, so you had to come up. Andrei, what technology do you use, and is there a thing you call an internal engine?
So yeah, we do use an internal engine. It's it's a solution that is based on an open source actually engine that we have full control of. It is called Irrlicht. It's not that famous. It's not as famous as Unity or Unreal or MaxPlay, but it's famous within the open source community. So when saying that we use our house homebrew technology, it's important to understand that whichever technology you have, you don't write it from scratch, because writing from scratch doesn't make any sense. So using a complete solution like Unity or Unreal means that you're shifting your development towards game development from technology development, but you're never at the zero game development or 100% technology development or vice versa, because you use complete solutions. You use open source. You don't write your own PNG loaders or that kind of stuff. You don't write your own file system handling. Why we do that, why we don't use Unity or Unreal is because we prefer flexibility over convenience. And usually bigger developers like, let's say, lost it from the top of my head, the Last of Us developer, like they use their own technology.
That's what EA uses, the Frostbite engine, right? And so, so they do all kinds of different things.
Yeah, because they want to have complete control, and it's more common for bigger developers to do that. We're small developers. We want to have complete control and flexibility because we want to run on the new platforms right away when Unity or Unreal doesn't have implementations for them. We also sometimes want to try different SDKs that Unity or Unreal don't have integration yet, and that kind of stuff. It just gives you more flexibility, and that's why we chose it. And we chose it a while ago when Unreal wasn't free and Unity wasn't great in 2D graphics, and our games are mostly 2D. And we grew that technology from there to where it is now. It is pretty powerful technology, in-house technology now, and that's why we keep using it.
Right, but the industry evolves, and that's what the engine people said, that, hey, I mean, we're making a tool so you developers can iterate on your games faster, and we fix the problems of making that technology. But you're saying that you're fine actually making the technology.
Well, in our case, we're not making the technology, we're improving it because we already have it. But as an argument here, I would say that while game engine developers, they fix problems for you, they also sometimes create problems for you. And you don't have complete control over some crashes, and you have to wait for them to fix them. And sometimes it's a big problem, and we encountered it not with an engine, but with third-party SDK recently when it would crash our game and we wouldn't know what's going on. We didn't have any control over it, and we just had to deal with it. If it was our own stuff, we would be able to fix it quickly and just ship an update. That's an argument. I do agree that game engines solve a lot of stuff for you.
Would you make a different choice today?
If we did start today, it would be a harder argument for me. It was much easier 5 years ago when we started.
Yeah, so game engines solve certain challenges so the developers don't have to. And let's touch actually the latest challenges. What are the challenges you guys are working on now?
So for like the way our company kind of works, like when I started 7 years ago, the biggest obstacle, like the hardest thing about making a game was the technology, because there was only Unreal and it was incredibly expensive. And you sort of needed a ton of money and a bunch of PhDs.
Well, there were more engines, but Unity got them, got bust. Like, for example, Garage Games engine and other engines.
Yeah, I mean, there were game engines too, but I wouldn't say that, it was still the hardest part of making a game. I would say that. So that's sort of the first problem we set out to solve. Okay, let's try to make this technology piece easier. And as that got easier over time, we continuously try to look for like what other problems do game developers have, and can we help them fix that? For instance, like Unity comes with the asset store that lets artists get programming work and programmers get artwork from others. Yep. There's obviously the big problem of how the hell do I make any money, and can I afford to actually work on this game?
Okay, so the latest problem, the latest challenge that you're trying to solve is actually to help these people make money.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the goal is that, small game developers can exist. Because if in this whole ecosystem, a small game developer cannot make enough money to make a living, then, they're gonna do something else. We're not gonna have these games.
Okay. I think that's a really good point. So you mentioned the marketplace, right? And so the marketplace is super valuable in Unity, and I think it touches on something that is the future of independent development, and that's actually being able to have an integrated community that can work together in a meaningful way. And I think that that's an interesting strategic direction for our industry, and that as tools, can accommodate that actual logical extension for developers to find and work with each other, make teams on the fly, disband teams, however, it becomes a very fluid opportunity to actually think about sort of LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn for developers that actually then is integrated with a development environment. So if you imagine kind of what the value is of the marketplace and kind of the extension, that's where we should be going as a group sitting up here.
And how does MaxPlay address that?
Well, that's part of our architecture, and that's part of what we believe is important. So, being able to let developers collaborate, find each other, and kind of hook up and work together in real time is an interesting opportunity.
So it's not a marketplace, it's more like developer to developer kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like, think about like a Odesk, for game development, where you're actually able to collaborate with 2, 3, 5, 10 people in a level, being able to instantly preview each other's work on device. So if you're going out to a VR device or a mobile phone, you can push a button and see it on device, even if you're in a different city or in a different location. Again, these are all just features that roll back up to what we're all trying to do as tool providers, meaning speed iteration, right? And that's really what we're just trying to enable you guys.
Okay, I almost got it. Hopefully you almost got it as well. So, Sjoerd, is collaboration and asset store the main challenge you're trying to solve with Unreal Engine?
We're definitely solving that as well. We're looking at it, but I think beyond that, as also brought up earlier, it's the biggest challenge is how do you get people to actually make money? Because if they don't make money, we don't make money. I mean, there's no point making games and the whole thing collapses. So I think helping people with discoverability, getting them to trade shows, anything like that, that's what we're trying to look at as well. How do you get people to sell games? How do you stand out in a very crowded market? That includes having an asset store, because you need to have assets faster, it brings down the cost. That includes having good tools, because you need to be able to make your games faster. I mean, all of it ties into that.
It's interesting that none of you actually mentioned the trend of going multi-platform, of adding more and more platforms. You didn't mention, so you did mention the service model. What I have in my notes, you didn't mention adding support for more and more SDKs from third parties. Like for example, Facebook, they evolve their own SDK all the time, and other important platforms, they like iterate on their own SDKs and features their platform support all the time. And as a developer, like when you have Unity or Unreal or MaxPlay open and like focusing on the game, and then you work on like making the level or narrowing down game design, and then you figure out your Facebook plugin doesn't work anymore, your Google Marketplace plugin doesn't work anymore, and so on and so forth. So what about that angle, working with platform providers?
I mean, it's a pain.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, like the sort of like SDK fatigue. I'm sure many of the people in the room here have
like
it.
bloat and fatigue.
Like one of the ways we try to help with this is Unity is, for instance, to make sure that the popular ones, that we have them built in so that we together with Facebook make sure that their stuff works in new versions of Unity.
So it's not them who should make the SDK work with you, but it's kind of both.
Well, instead of like everyone here in the room having to go to Facebook and saying like, well, your thing doesn't work anymore in Unity 5.5, instead, we go to Facebook directly and we work with them so that other people have a more pleasant experience. But this whole, especially like if you look at the companies on the show floor, there's, 20 ad providers these days. Like they all come with their own SDK. They all say that it's easy to integrate, myself included. We also have an ads SDK, very easy to integrate.
Hard to maintain.
But like, it just like every SDK, it just adds up. It just adds up. And then, oops, you want to publish to a new platform. Oh, yeah, okay, so that one doesn't work and that one doesn't work. and then
Yeah.
you have to get an update for
So,
that one.
No solution, Sinjin?
The only, so I'm not sure this is a solution because it is a problem, but our approach to it was actually creating a level of abstraction so that the app providers can actually integrate in a much easier, more streamlined way through our architecture. But the problem is still real. They're still going to upgrade their SDKs and there's still bloat and there's still issues with it. But what we're trying to do is make it easier and more streamlined for them to be able to integrate and upgrade their SDKs, and that's our.
Okay, so SDK providers think that game engines shall do that. Game engines think that ad providers shall do that. And what about the actual developers? Well, how do you do, Andrei?
It's a good point. SDKs is a big pain. However, if you're Unity, you have negotiating power with Facebook, and you can fix these things faster. If you're a developer of your own technology, then you can actually put in quick fixed SDK into your game right away and fix it faster than waiting for Unity to release an update. So it's a hard problem. There is no easy solution for that. There are different approaches. I think your own technology or using Unity or Unreal or MaxPlay or whatever else has its own advantages. So it's just different solutions to the same problem. I don't think that SDKs by themselves somehow should affect your decision whether to build your homebrew technology or to use a complete ready solution. I think it's going to be a problem anyway.
Yeah, okay, but let's focus about the platforms, about like the platforms that you want your game to run on. And let's talk a bit about how the game engines work with these platforms. Like we discussed SDK providers, nobody loves them. Well, okay, I guess nobody loves them from the audience, unless...
well, we love them. It's just a lot of, it's just work. But I mean, everyone loves that they're available.
Money, yeah.
Well, not money, but regardless of what the SDK does. Like this sort of thing that, I think for all of the engine tech here on the stage, it's extensible. So just the fact that it's, there is such a thing as an SDK that you can plug in, without Unity's help or without Unreal's help, without MaxPlay's help, that in itself is an incredibly good thing. And this extensibility comes with, it brings a lot of safety and knowing that you can do it yourself, on your own timeline instead of on Unity's timeline, which you have no control over. So the SDKs are great. And that's why they're used so much, but it's just annoying if you have 20.
Yes. How much do you need?
Well, can we see how many people have more than 2 or 3 of these SDKs in their game?
Yes.
Yeah.
More than 5? And they come and they go.
Yes, obviously.
More than 10?
Nobody publishes to China here. I mean, so okay. You have one set of SDKs for Europe, for the US, for China. And for various Chinas inside China. So it's easy to collect about 20, and I mean it depending on how global you'd love to be. And also it's not only about the ads, it's also about certain platform-specific plugins, region-specific plugins. It's not only about payments and ads. It's lots of stuff. But actually, I mean, I'm still trying to pivot to platforms and to multi-platform. I mean, how many platforms does Unity support at the moment?
It really depends on how you count.
I have 10 fingers. Is it enough?
No, 10 fingers is not enough. PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, Android. Do you count Android as 1 or as 50? It's up to you. WebGL, Xbox One, Xbox 360, PlayStation Vita, Nintendo.
You're about to make an announcement.
Yeah, I should make sure to not forget anyone and not add too much.
Okay, right.
But and I guess that's it's one of the biggest Unity selling points.
Which one are the focus?
There's not one that has the focus. Our focus is to make sure that when people choose to use Unity to make a game...
You're not on marketing. Let me remind you. I mean, which one is of the focus?
No, there's no... remember the trouble... Imagine the trouble I get into if I say, PlayStation, that's the focus.
Okay.
So that's not the. So
let's
that's not the
let's
case.
see if Sinjin and Sjoerd have more.
So it's whoever's paying the most money, right, for the custom
Exactly,
support.
but that's a
so,
good answer.
but I can't answer the question for him. So we think about it at a little bit different level. We're looking at it as because you have to deal with all of these different platforms. They all have different sort of runtime, low-level architectural issues. Our focus is to make sure that the runtime and the rendering is N-core architected. It's not functionally multi-threaded. What's interesting is that the power of mobile phones, Samsung at Mobile World Congress is going to announce an 8-core phone. So all of a sudden, really, if we look at it, right, as a group, we're now providing tools and platforms for mobile phones that are as powerful as PS3s and Xboxes, right? Mobile phones.
Mobile phones is a great answer.
Right, and I think what's interesting is that that means a whole bunch of stuff. It has a whole bunch of ramifications for what developers can do. For instance, with VR, if they have the right horsepower, there's all kinds of things that if you go beyond, iOS versus Android versus PS4, that's where we are today. But where we are, this coming year and next year is going to be a whole different place. So it's kind of interesting and eye-opening.
That's why I'm asking about the focus. Do you have a different focus, like?
No, we're pretty much on the same one. We have pretty much 4 focus groups, I guess, which is most of the platforms. So PC and therefore Linux and Macs as well included in that, I would say, and PlayStation and Xbox, and then VR and mobile. I mean, it's pretty much the whole thing we're covering as well. But an important difference for us is that we're also making our own games still. We're not just making the engine. And we're currently actually making a mobile game, console game, and a PC game internally. And they're pretty, large titles. And because we're doing that ourselves, we actually encounter a lot of things on those platforms you otherwise might not have covered as engine developers. We might have heard of them from people using the engine, but now we're experiencing them firsthand. We're experiencing, okay, this doesn't work very well. Doing this on a PlayStation, for example, this is going to be annoying. We need to fix that, and that really helps us to get a much better experience going there, I think.
That's a really good point. Actually, working with actual games and developing them as a complement to your tech efforts and your engine efforts as a platform is really invaluable. We have a little bit different sort of history on that in our company, in that our guys were the group that ran EA Partners for many years. So we had the fortunate good luck of working with Crytek. We actually worked with Epic on some games. We worked with a lot of developers around the world who were working with Unreal, CryEngine, Unity, and we were able to not only see how their games were impacted, their production pipelines, how they dealt with dealing with individual different platforms. It's a really invaluable lesson that is really important, I think, for all of us as platform providers, that we don't lose touch with the realities of pushing a game out.
Talk to developers more often, drink beers with them.
Yeah,
so
just
this is you, they're gonna drink beers with you.
Oleg, just a couple of words from me
exactly.
on the point of yes. Sorry, I thought I missed it. On the point of new platforms, our focus is iOS and Android, but it's also nice to be able to port over our games to a new platform whenever it becomes available. And an example of that is we ported over all of our, let's say, 15 games that that fitted Android Wear in a matter of only 3 weeks to Android Wear, and having our own technology allowed us to do that very quickly without waiting for Unity.
Compile the source?
No, actually, porting over the technology took even less. It's just all the UI and all the gameplay stuff that we could adjust. We did it. It took us a little longer, and we published it on Android Wear to become the biggest Android Wear publisher in the world for as much as it's worth. And that's only thanks to us using our own technology. And now we have 200,000 installs on the platform that has only 800,000 devices. So
I have a provoking question. Did it help? Did the major Android Wear developer
did it help what?
to take all over the world?
It did not. The platform is very small. That's why I don't think it's the reason to use your own technology. It's just a good example of how you can capture a new platform if you have full control over the source.
Okay, so one small question. It's mostly about yes or no handheld consoles. Do you guys care?
Yeah.
Does anyone in the room care about handheld consoles? Nintendo, like. One brave arm for Nintendo. Okay, three and a half brave arms for Nintendo. What about Sony's handheld? Does anyone care? Okay, 1.5 arms.
Did you care as a developer or a player?
As a dad.
I just see that.
Now, a bit less shy question, and that's about the browser. Thing is that, especially in terms of casual games, browsers used to be like really a major platform. Like lots of people used to release games to the Facebook and earn lots of monies. I guess, right? Anyone? Anyone? No support? Yes. One hand. Okay. What does anyone else do? Okay. So, what about the Flash? What can we replace Flash? I mean, games in the browser is still essential.
So like
the
angle that we're taking, like we used to have a web player. Which was like our own browser plugin like Flash that allowed you to play games.
But that's a past tense.
It's past tense because the browser vendors decided that they don't like plugins anymore, which unfortunately also hit us. So we've taken the angle of exporting to WebGL. So that means that we take our whole engine and convert it to JavaScript and that it runs in the browser. Like we think that is a very promising route, but we also realize that the browser support for this is not amazing yet. And we're in this sort of like time frame gap which it's actually a little bit rare that like it's harder to make web games today than it was 3 years ago. And there's not that many times in technology in my lifetime that I can remember that you can actually say that like that something actually it actually got harder, and it will probably be great again, 2 years from now. But today, making things for the web,
unless you have a small C++ engine, and then you compiled your C++ Unity to kind of like JavaScript, and well, obviously that doesn't run that fast. But like if you have a small C++ engine, like for example, what Andrei does, like you just...
It's disclaimer, we don't, browser games are not our area of interest, and with browser, specifically if it's a C++ engine, I don't think it makes it easier, because you have to run either Chrome native plugin or make user install your own plugin, which is they don't like. Even if you have Unity, I think it's not easy to convince people to install a plugin.
That was always hard.
So I don't think it's easy for anyone. You have to have a separate code base for the browser game. So it's not easier if you have your own C++ tiny technology.
Well, I would say Unity has a tiny C++ runtime. So I actually don't think that is so much true. It's true. Like I think if you want to make like something really small for the web, that you're in the If it's really important that it's small, you would go for like a JavaScript engine of some sort.
Well, it's important that it works. That's like number one, that a casual player opens the game in the Facebook and can play the game like soon enough.
But I think we all just heard 3 people, and I'll add my hand to the 4, so that web-based games are not exactly the most exciting to us as a group, either independently or as platform.
No, that's not true for us. Like we like the.
What was the idea?
No, there's things that I would love to say that I don't think I can say yet.
GDC soon enough.
This is. I just wanted to see if something would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I
just
we
wanted
should
to
have this talk again.
The last question for the talk
but
is what are you announcing for GDC? So we can do it now. It's okay.
That is a good question. I'll refer that one to Sjoerd and come back to you.
Okay. What about the audience? I mean, I'm gonna repeat the question. I still have hopes. Do you care about browser games? No?
No.
Okay. 2 hands.
Two hands.
4 hands. 5 hands.
Slightly,
See,
slightly
it's
more
getting-
than
it's
hand,
getting
slightly more than
better,
handheld.
It's getting better. I mean, I still.
You missed the web player?
That was crap.
I hear you, brother.
That was crap.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, there is a gap right now.
There is, and we had the Flash thing for a while to
netherworld.
fill the gap, but it's crazy time. So like maybe we can finish the round of platforms like mobile. Like, do we get some hands for mobile? Okay, so there's quite a bit. And what is everyone else?
Who cares about VR? Oh, lots of
Oh,
hands. Like lots and grunting. Hands and grunting.
I wonder how are they gonna earn money there. But that's what's the next panel. gonna be
Google
about.
Cardboard. There'll be cardboard and
They're gonna be selling cardboards. Okay, makes sense. What else? About platforms? I guess standalone desktop PC.
Yeah, oh, that's
So
quite a bit.
that's Steam, right? That's what we're talking about. Okay, okay, and so yeah, that's what casual game developers do now. So the resolution is nothing gonna replace Flash since no one cares. So that's a good answer.
So I have something that's interesting, just as a note, because we were talking about mobile, and then power, and then VR, and it's like, how do you make money, right? Because there's no installed base. Well, I wonder. It's interesting, just for the group. I wonder if everything's free to play now, right? On mobile, everything's free basically. It'll be interesting. I'll be interested to see over the next year or two whether in VR, whether it's on Gear VR or Oculus or whatever, whether people are going to be able to actually sell premium games again. New platform coming out, and maybe as an industry, we're not locked into free games on new platforms like VR, even on mobile phones. It just struck me as an interesting note for how do we make money.
If I can add into that, I think it's going to be premium, personally, because the people you attract with VR tend to be enthusiasts. I mean, you kind of tend to be a bit more hardcore into it. You don't tend to be a casual, I mean, you're not like a 50-year-old mother who comes home from work or whatever, and you go sit on your couch and you put on an Oculus. It's not that kind of audience, right? So the people you attract tend to be you guys, I guess. So let's say 20-year-olds, whatever, is your average age, who are into tech, into games, and you're probably more likely to pay for it, I think, if you enjoy the game. So.
And all the Asian people in the room are telling, like, paid games. What is that? Why would you sell games like all games are free to play? So maybe in a year or two in Asia they will figure out that they can purchase games instead of playing them as a free to play.
Or maybe there'll be 1 billion people in China playing VR games, and you can still do microtransactions.
I wonder how many VR stores we're gonna have in China. So I was asked to ask a question, and but that's quite a provoking one, and I promise no drama, so I'll ask very politely. What about the competition on the engines market? So we have more and more announcements, and I'm sure, there are going to be even more announcements on GDC, on what's coming to the game engines, any thoughts like, are you going to fight and we're going to just, sit and watch, or are you going to do something?
I thought there was no drama, but if you want drama, we can do that.
No, I mean, still no drama. It's just like a polite question. I tried.
I mean, I think the bottom line of it is that, with the competition going on in
You
the
can
game,
make it cheaper already.
in the game tech scene, it's just like it's a great time to be a developer.
Oh yeah, that's why there's
Because
money.
Unity has always been very cheap. Unreal price went down a lot, and for any any newcomer like MaxPlay, it's you can't come in and say like, well, we have this new engine tech and it's like $30,000.
Well, we could.
Yeah.
You could,
Maybe
but,
limit the market.
but we wouldn't be here with the 4 of us next year then.
I would be an attendee.
It's I think it's great for customers that there that there's
And for
competition.
the engines?
I mean, personally, I think it's fun. I mean, it's I would be lying if when I go to work and try, try to make Unity better. That
Better than nothing?
no, yeah, you know, you try to make it better than the other stuff that's out there.
Okay.
So well, of course, like we like to be better than Unreal and like to be better than other things. But at the end of the day, it's really like it. You know, there's always something like that going on. But the only thing that matters at the end of the day is if our customers are happy.
Okay.
And it really doesn't matter so much.
What do you do with
Actually, like to us, like it's also pretty good if Sjoerd's customers are also happy. But we care about our customers and that they are happy.
So,
And the great thing is about our industry is it's growing, and it's growing rapidly. The number of developers on a worldwide basis is still growing very significantly every year, and there are more businesses, more verticals that are doing interactive development than ever before. So if you look at what's going on in the medical, and you know, we're all gamers, right? But the reality is that the vertical markets of medical, military, educational, I could go on and on, even just silly things like travel and leisure, right? They're all investing heavily in interactive. And what that means is that developers as a community have more and more markets that they can sell their skills to. There are more platforms and more tools that are going to be sold. So, you know, for the newcomer, right, we're the newcomers, along with a little company called Amazon, right, who's decided they're going to get into the game platform business.
Surprise, surprise.
And they, you know, so they're making really interesting choices on their technology. So they might be the most interesting and fun group to work with. And, you know, we've been following them for quite a long time because the guys who are there work for us at EA, so we kind of know what they're doing. But the reality is for us as a group, the market is growing significantly, and I think that at the end of the day is going to benefit you guys because there's enough room for us as platform owners to grow and evolve and then provide solutions to you guys that fit you.
Yeah, that being said, I agree. But there's another point to it. So, and I think it's going to get increasingly harder to step into the market if you're an engine producer, if you're not already in it. If you're thinking in 5 to 10 years from now, how much is it going to cost to create an engine that's a lot better than the current ones, because otherwise no one will switch. Yep. Because people are quite loyal when it comes to engines, because you invested your entire pipeline, all your training, all of that stuff, maybe you have assets prepared, everything is set up for that one engine. So in order to get into that market, you're going to have to do a lot better than what's already out there. And you have to tick all of the boxes. Like 10 years ago, it would have been enough to just make a nice rendering engine, and or 20 years ago. And at that point, someone came up with good tools. We did, kind of, at some point, whatever. And you know, and that kind of became the standard. So you need to have a good rendering engine, and it needs to have a nice tools set, right? And then you can see this progressing over the years. Also, due to Unity, the things that are happening. You know, it needs to be multi-platform. Okay, it's not a box to tick. It needs to have really good documentation. That's not a box to tick. And then a few years ago, it went even further. Now you need to have people like me, what I do, travel around, reach out to people. You can't even just sit in your building, put a website online, and wait. You know, you can see the requirements going up for companies like us.
And so, to put a finer point on it, right, the amount of money we're talking about, Amazon has invested at least $80 million in Lumberjack. At least. Not necessarily that it's been money well spent or that they couldn't have spent it more efficiently, who knows. But the point is, you know, it's a lot of money. It's tens and tens of millions of dollars to get into this market.
Exactly. So, Andrei, so you have a choice right now. There's so much people trying to sell you an engine. How do they appeal to you? How do they pitch an engine to you? So you say, you know, yes, like, let's talk.
In our particular situation, I would probably consider the cost of switch, whether it makes sense for us to do that or not. The thing here is that most of the engines available in the market are 3D mostly and 2D as a second, not focus. And our games are 2D, so it has to have a really good 2D solution. The price point, everything is, as everyone here says, everything is very affordable. So that's not as important now, but obviously it is important too. We're trying to save money, but it's more of a convenience thing. If it was better than the technology we have, and I think that we have pretty good technology now, then probably we would switch. If not, then we would stay with our own technology. I'm happy with it.
Okay, so ease of switch. Does anyone agree? Anyone? Different opinions? Ease of, like, how do they sell you an engine? What do they say to you so you buy an engine? So you switch. Any ideas? Anyone? No? No? Okay, think about it.
Let me know if you have a good idea.
Yeah.
Does anyone actually here develop their own engine? Do they run on their own engine? Because yeah, if no one does, then they don't need to switch. Maybe from one engine, maybe from
one engine to another.
maybe
That's what I'm asking. I mean, the new game engines get born faster than the new generation of developers in a need of an engine. So obviously you're gonna steal your users and like from your peers.
Has anyone actually ever made the switch from one engine to another?
One,
Yeah.
two.
Was it like are we?
Okay, so about
Are we-
30%.
Is that like was that like a year thing or like a 6 months thing or just whatever just works?
Whatever works.
It just happened.
I think it was the transition from Flash to Unity.
Mm-hmm.
Flash to Unity.
And to your previous question about what makes you choose an engine, when I got to Unity, it was so welcoming and so easy, and it fitted my needs exactly. So we just
Okay.
standard, we got the engine.
So the answer was Unity just offered a nice tool set.
well, Flash to Unity is an easy switch, especially now, because it's inevitable. You'll have to switch from Flash
And
to
then you
something.
cannot publish to browser anymore. Yes.
Look, at the end of the day, I would agree. Look, there's cost of the switch, right, which is some real and some imagined, right? So it's like, you know, what are the real switching costs? You have to learn a new scripting, language. Can you bring the assets over? There's a psychological cost to actually doing something different. But then I think that, why would somebody switch? I think at the end of the day, my intuition is the only reason to switch is if something's going to give you better performance and better control and flexibility as a developer. I mean, that's what I think about is like, why would I switch? Because I've been a developer. I've made a lot of games, and I've made a lot of different kinds of games. But the only thing I care about is, like you're saying, is can I make my game, right? Can I control my own destiny? And can I move at the speed I need to move as a developer? Or do I get locked into something? Do I get limited? Am I prevented from, accessing certain parts of the software because it's a black box or whatever? So, switching costs, I don't think. Look, up until today, you've only either had your own engine or you've switched to Unity or Unreal, right? I mean, that's kind of the reality. So, what's going to be interesting is over the next year or two, when there are other choices, right? Lumberjack, MaxPlay, whoever else is going to come out with some option, all of a sudden you've gone from 2 things to 5 or whatever, and then people are actually going to have to go, why would I switch? And it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. I do think, based on what our search in what our research and talk with the developers is, every developer I talk to is interested in looking at new technology, but it has to be new and it has to actually improve the situation. Right.
That's an interesting angle. It has to be new. Okay. So like we tried to brainstorm on a non-existing question just yet, and the answer, and we actually were quite successful in brainstorming the answer, and it was the ease of switch, the feature set. However, we didn't quite think about the being future prone, like new platforms, they do emerge, like new technologies do emerge. And like, are you fine sticking to an engine? I mean, like after the switch, for the next year at least, you're gonna focus on that engine. And if Nintendo releases a new thing, like would you care? So yeah, but like we still have 11 minutes. You guys should think about the question. I need 2 questions from the audience. And before we switch to you guys, let's finally have a few final things. I have a bunch of Blitz questions. We don't have time for that, but there is 1.5 important questions that I'd love to hear from you guys. Can you define the success? Define success for your engine, each of you. Like, what do you think is successful?
For us, it's if our customers are successful, if they can afford to be a game developer, If they can make a living being a game developer, that's our success. And the more customers like that, the more people using our tools, using our tool to be able to do what they love.
Okay.
That's
Successful
success
indie
for
developer.
us.
That's an answer.
So there are two answers to the question. One is to the money guys, the VCs and the people who give us money to do what we're doing. The answer is we want to own 15% of the marketplace in 2018.
Okay,
right?
15%.
So that's one answer. But the answer from me as a person who's been a game developer is, our goal is to make the development process less painful, to enable people to do more things and focus on their creativity. I don't think that's any different than anybody else, but that's what we do.
I love the number, 15%. I see some journalists in this hall written down, so I guess by the end, by the time we leave the room, there's going to be an article somewhere.
Works for me.
Unreal, what does...
Yeah, if our developers are happy, but not just for one type of game, one type of market, but across the board. So for very big developers, which we've been working with for a very long time, 200 people studios, it has to work well for them. They have to be able to have a nice workflow going. The engine has to scale up, and then going all the way down. Sorry. To one-person indie teams, and they have to be able to take an engine that's actually made for rather big teams, and actually be able to use all those tools and make a game with it, all on their own. So if we can do that, we're happy.
Okay, so happy people in this room, happy customers of game engines, and 15%.
Yeah, and we are not using third-party game engine, but there is a metric for us, obviously, to measure the success of our game engine as a tool for our own homebrew games. It shouldn't take a lot of resources. It should be flexible, and it should help us deliver games. That's the metric of success of our homebrew technology, and it does the job for now. I'm happy with it. Whenever it stops doing that, we'll probably have to make a switch whenever someone else has a better solution for us.
Okay, so the metric of success for an indie game engine is that it makes the job done. That's okay. So, any questions so far? Otherwise, okay, we have one. Do we have another one? We have two. That's perfect. Then the last question from me. And I still want to repeat. I already asked that, but I'll try to be less polite eventually. So, a peek into what's coming for GDC. Anyone is brave enough? There is lots of journalist people here, so to make it even more challenging for you. But a small peek. What's coming?
I can talk about what we're going to do because I'm going to talk about it a little bit after this presentation. We're going to talk about our runtime technology a little bit and how we've architected our platform top to bottom to be fully N-core architected, which has some pretty profound ramifications.
Any games to announce?
I'm sorry?
Any games to announce?
No, I'm not going to talk about that. We're going to focus on getting early access announced.
Okay.
That's our big thing.
Okay. Next brave one.
It's something to do with computers. No comments. That's it.
Okay. That's very unexpected. So, no?
No, if you're asking for pre-GDC announcements, that's not going to happen. But at least for me personally, the reason I go to GDC is not so much to yell from the rooftops, but to listen to customers. Because usually they're yelling back.
Yeah.
And if you it's important that we listen to customers using our product to understand where we're lacking, where we need to be better. So at least for the people in the dev team that go to GDC, often their main focus is just to hear from customers, whether they're happy or unhappy, to understand how they use the product and to try to help them out.
Okay. We have 6 more minutes. Can we get the mic here, please? There was a person with a question, right?
Hello. Is it working?
Yes.
So I'm an indie developer in the prize award thing, and when I look around, all I see are 2D games. And I've worked on Unreal before. I've been working on Unity for 10 years now, pretty much since the beginning. And I've always seen these engines put more effort towards the kind of thing that a AAA game needs. Unreal is more evident because you've always been in the AAA market. Unreal has put a lot of effort on global elimination, on some of the more mature technologies that a AAA game would need. But for example, simple things like 2D, which casual games pretty much a huge percentage of casual games need good 2D support, and these engines that seem to be lacking in that support. Unreal is trying to make some. No, sorry. Unity is trying to make some effort towards 2D.
And the question is?
And the question is why is that? Why is it being so? Especially Unity has been trying to be targeted at smaller developers. Why has there not been more effort towards these 2D technologies that small developers usually need more than?
I wouldn't say that there hasn't been a lot of effort, but I think for us, we started really putting serious attention on 2D later in the game. We started as a as a solution for 3D games, and sure, you could do 2D stuff with it, and many people did, and were successful with it, but it wasn't really sort of like in our mindset. That has been, that has probably been only for the last 4 years or something, and I guess that shows in the sense that there's.
That no one cares about killing flesh. That's what we discussed.
Well, it's tricky.
We care about killing flesh. Don't worry about it.
It's tricky, right? Because when you start as a core 3D tech, to layer on 2D tech into that is tricky, and it's an entirely necessarily different set of tools sometimes and production processes. So it's hard when you come at something from 3D, or if you come at it from 2D, it's very frequently hard to get to the other side technically.
I'm not sure how much I agree with that, because if I look at our customers, if you look at the show floor here, there's many games that are 2D-ish, but that still use that you still couldn't make with a 2D only engine. There's
2.5D.
2.5D, or just gameplay happening in a flat plane, but maybe lighting effects and cameras maybe not so. So I don't think it's sort of like a Frankenstein marriage to try to make a tool that was originally built for 3D also do 2D. I actually think that works out very well.
You kind of invest almost same resources as to make a 3D game. However, the game is 2D. Okay, 2.5D, 2.25D. I know.
You're so precise.
But most of the effort we put in developing the engine. Most of it is not, okay, this guy's working on 2D and that girl's working on 3D stuff. Yeah. Like, for instance, asset loading, runtime support, garbage collection. It's all of this happens. It's the same thing. I would say the biggest difference, actually, from a tools perspective for 2D and 3D is not so much the runtime tech, but it's actually the authoring tools. The authoring tools, that's where it really differs. And if you saw the last Unite keynote, I did a presentation of some of the new 2D authoring tools that we're working on to quickly map out scenes. At least from Unity, you should expect sort of the innovation in 2D, not so much come from that we get your pixels on screen faster, but the innovation from our side is really going to come from authoring improvements for 2D titles.
The main use case for 2D, and Andrei might fix my pitch, is basically when you don't have either skills or resources for 3D. You can utilize Photoshop or Illustrator, and then you want to put that in, and then drag something, and then there is a game.
I don't agree
No,
completely.
me neither.
No,
okay,
I think there is a lot of interest in 2D games on mobile specifically, and but actually bad support for 2D was one of the main reasons for us not going with Unity in the first place. And I think that a lot of developers went with Coco's 2D instead of developing their own technology that you could have if you had a good 2D support back in the day. Now, the last time I checked, it was much better than it used to be, but it's still I don't think it's still a good 2D solution.
Sjoerd, do you have a pitch to 2D guys?
On 2D.
Do you have a pitch for that? Ready?
I mean, we have 2D support in it. It's still a bit small scale featured. I mean, it's not extensive.
It's a bit flat.
It's in there because we feel it's important to make sure that people notice the engine can do a lot of different kind of games, but it's not traditionally our market, and that's the thing, and you can tell that the way we've done it so far. So.
What about MaxPlay and 2D?
There are great 2D games that can be very commercially successful. For us, we've taken a look at the problem too. Our solution is going to provide an open architecture for people to customize as they want, because the tool set and the production capabilities are pretty different from 3D to 2D. And look, we're the new guys, so we're focusing on what we think is going to be our center of gravity, and we can't provide all the features, all the functions that Unity has out of the gate. So we're probably not going to be as strong in 2D, but it's not because we don't believe in it.